The royal ship Silverclaw docked with a loud hiss on Voron 6, the busiest trade station in the sector. Everyone on the dock froze. Guards in black and gold armor stepped out first, tall and sharp. Behind them came a giant creature, covered in smooth fur with glowing yellow eyes and claws like knives, and then she stepped down. Empress Velshara, tall, cold, wearing a long, flowing robe that shimmered like glass. Her eyes were proud, her voice sharp. She looked around at the dirty dock with clear disgust. This place smells like rust and humans. At the same moment, Cole, a simple human mechanic in an old gray uniform, wiped his hands with a rag. He was covered in grease, sweat on his face, tools hanging from his belt. He didn't look up as the royal party approached. He was fixing a cracked pipe in the dock floor. The station chief, a nervous alien with twitching ears, hurried over. "See, Supreme Empress, we are honored. What can we do?" Velshara didn't look at him. She pointed at her ship. "My rear engine is stalling. I need it working before nightfall. Call your top engineer." The chief hesitated, then pointed to Cole. That's him." "Cole. Best we have." The Empress turned, saw the human, her nose wrinkled. "This is your best?" Cole stood, nodded once. "Show me the engine," he said simply. She blinked, then laughed, a sharp, echoing sound that made her guards chuckle too. "They send a Terran greaseworm to fix my royal vessel? Are there no machines left for him to mop?" Cole didn't react. He just walked toward her ship. The engine room was large, hot and glowing with light from unstable power rods. Sparks flew from a damaged panel. Cole got to work fast. Velshara stood outside the ship, arms crossed, annoyed. Viran, the large feline beast, followed her silently. It was her constant shadow. Strong, silent, dangerous. But then something changed. The beast sniffed the air, its legs wobbled, it groaned, and collapsed near the engine bay. Smoke began to fill the room. A coolant pipe had burst. Everyone panicked, except Cole. He dropped his tool, rushed forward, and without hesitation grabbed the giant feline by its fur and front legs and lifted it off the burning floor with his bare hands. The Empress shouted, "What are you doing?" "You'll hurt him." Cole didn't speak. He stepped over sparking cables, the beast still in his arms, muscles straining, and placed Varen gently on the clean metal floor outside the smoke. Then he turned, ran back in, and shut down the power rod manually, bare-handed. Sparks burned his skin, but the engine cooled. Smoke faded. Silence. Everyone stared. The Empress stepped forward slowly, looking at Cole as if she was seeing him for the first time. "You carried Varen without fear?" Cole shrugged. He was choking. "I could help, so I did." Her eyes narrowed. "You lifted 700 pounds. He nodded. "I lift fuel drums every day." Varen was lighter than a full crate. Varen opened its eyes, looked at Cole, and purred softly. It stood, then walked past its guards, past the Empress, and sat beside the human's feet. Everyone froze again. Velshara's voice was softer now, almost uncertain. "He has never done that. Never chosen another over me." Cole looked at the beast, then at her. Maybe he knows who really cares. For a moment, the Empress said nothing. Then, in a low voice, she asked, "What did you say your name was?" "I didn't," Cole replied, "but it's Cole." Later that night, Varen refused to return to the Empress's chambers. He stayed curled up in Cole's small workshop, surrounded by tools and the smell of oil. The guards tried to pull him away. He growled. Velshara watched it happen. The human she had mocked had earned her beast's loyalty, and she didn't understand why. Yet. The royal guards stood frozen. They had tried everything, commands, whistles, even food. But the Empress's great feline beast Varen refused to move. It had curled up in the corner of a dirty repair workshop, its massive body surrounded by oil cans, toolboxes, and the soft hum of old engines. And beside it sat Cole, cross-legged on the floor, drinking cold tea from a metal cup. Empress Velshara stood at the doorway, her arms crossed tight. Her voice was calm, but her eyes burned with confusion. He was born to obey only me. Cole glanced up. Maybe he changed his mind. She stepped closer. You don't understand. This creature was bred for loyalty, conditioned for war. He has never left my side. Cole placed his cup down. He almost died today. Maybe that matters more to him than orders. Varan opened one glowing eye, watched the Empress, then turned his head and pressed his large nose against Cole's knee, soft like a house cat. The guards shifted uneasily. One whispered, "Should we remove the human?" Varan growled. The Empress raised her hand. No. She studied Cole now, not with disgust, but with curiosity. You're not like the others, she said. Cole wiped his hands on a cloth. You mean humans? I mean men who pretend to be strong. Velshara stepped further inside the workshop. She looked around at the simple tools, the rusted walls, the heat stains on the ceiling. This place is ugly. Cole shrugged. It gets the job done. She pointed at a dented metal chair. You sit on this? Only when I'm lucky, he replied. She knelt beside Varan, placing a hand on the beast's neck. He didn't move. She looked at Cole again. Why did you run into the engine smoke? Because he was choking, Cole said. That's not reason enough. Cole's eyes narrowed slightly. It was for me. A long silence. Then she spoke softer. You could have been burned alive. I know. She looked down. No one has ever done that for him before. Varan shifted, now placing one massive paw over Cole's foot like a protective gesture. The Empress watched closely. He chose you, she said, but I still don't know why. Cole stood and walked to a workbench. He picked up a scrap of cloth and returned, gently wiping the dried smoke from Varan's fur. I didn't try to tame him, he said. I just helped him. Velshara didn't reply for a while. Finally, she asked, What do you want in return? Cole blinked. What? My people believe every action must earn a reward. Cole smiled faintly. Then maybe your people need better actions. She stared at him, stunned, and for the first time in her life, she was not angry at being challenged. She was curious. That night, word spread through the station. The Empress's beast had chosen a human, and the human had not bowed. The next morning, the Empress appeared at the training deck. Cole was lifting fuel tanks alone. She watched him from the shadows, not with mockery, but with a quiet question in her mind. What kind of strength is this, and why does it feel stronger than mine? Empress Velshara had seen war. She had seen giants fall, cities burn, and armies kneel. But she had never seen a man like Cole, the human mechanic with no medals, no armor, and no fear. At sunrise, she stood on a high walkway, her guards behind. Her below, in the cargo bay, Cole was alone. He wore the same oil-stained uniform. No gloves, no boots, just strong hands and quiet focus. He was lifting fuel drums, one on each shoulder, stacking them gently into place, not for show, not for applause, just because it needed to be done. The Empress leaned forward. Her voice was low. Why does he do that himself? Her head guard replied, There are drones for that. But he says drones break more than they fix. She frowned. So he breaks his back instead? No, Empress. He lifts things others won't touch. Hours passed. Cole kept working. Sweat ran down his neck. His muscles moved with calm rhythm. Not rushed, not angry, not proud, just present. Later, the Empress walked down to the cargo floor, alone. Viren walked beside her like a shadow. Cole didn't look up. He was adjusting a transport wheel. She stood over him. Do you enjoy this? Dirt, noise, lifting barrels? He looked up, wiped his forehead. It's honest. She crossed her arms. You're stronger than you look. Cole gave a half smile. So are you. She blinked. No one had ever said that to her without fear or sarcasm. Just truth. She sat on a crate nearby, watching. Cole continued working. Not to impress her, but not ignoring her either. She noticed small things. He helped a child alien who had dropped her data pad. He fixed a broken cart without being asked. He offered a water bottle to a tired dock worker. No one bowed to him, but they all respected him. The Empress said, "Back home, strength means power, control." Cole shrugged. Back on Earth, strength meant survival. But here, it means carrying what no one else wants to carry. She tilted her head. "And who carries you?" He paused. No answer, only silence. That evening, Cole returned to his workshop. Viren followed him again, tail swishing, quiet and calm. Velshara walked with them, slowly. When they reached the workshop door, she spoke. "You changed him." Cole glanced at Viren. "No, I just gave him a choice." She looked away. "We don't get many of those." She looked around the dusty workshop. No crown, no throne, no guards. Cole leaned against the wall. "You don't need them when you don't want to be above everyone." Velshara was silent for a moment, then asked something almost soft. "Would you show me how to lift one of those fuel drums?" Cole raised an eyebrow. "You?" She nodded. "I don't want to be watched this time. I want to learn." He stepped forward, placed her hands correctly, guided her with patience. She tried. It moved an inch. She gasped. "It's heavier than it looks." He smiled. Most important things are. That night, Velshara sat alone in her royal chamber. No music, no wine, no court. Just her hands, sore from lifting, resting on her knees. And in her mind, one strange question returned. If strength isn't power, then what have I been chasing all these years? 2 days later, Station Command received an unexpected message. A private shuttle was requesting landing rights. The name of the ship sent a cold silence through the control room. House Dravak. Enemies of the royal bloodline. Cole was under a transport shuttle, tightening bolts when the Empress's guards arrived. "The Empress requires your presence." He wiped his hands calmly. "I'm kind of busy." "It's urgent." He stood, sighed, and followed. In the main hangar, a new alien stood tall and armored. His skin dark red, his eyes sharp. This was Lord Kyvrin of House Dravak. He bowed slightly to Velshara, though his tone held no respect. "You left your world, Empress, so I came to bring you a gift." He pointed to a silver cage behind him. Inside, another feline beast, smaller than Viren, was caged and whimpering. "I captured it last moon. Thought you'd like to decorate your ship with a second pet." The Empress's jaw tightened. Cole stepped forward. "Why is it in a cage?" Kyvrin raised an eyebrow. "And who is this dirt-wearing creature?" The Empress replied before Cole could. "He's a mechanic, and he is under my protection." Kyvrin laughed. "You defend a grease hand? Tell me, Empress, has the jungle beast corrupted your sense of pride?" Cole stepped closer. Eyes calm, voice steady. "Let the beast out." Kyvrin tilted his head. "And what if it rips you in two?" "Then at least it won't die in a cage." Velshara's eyes widened. Even her guards whispered. No one spoke. "To House Dravak that way," Kyvrin sneered. "I see. You want to impress the Empress. Show off your human bravery?" He stepped forward, face inches from Cole. "If you think you're strong, try me." He raised his armored arm and shoved Cole backward. Cole didn't fall. He didn't flinch. Instead, he reached out and gripped Kyvrin's shoulder armor. A twist, a crack, a sudden drop in Kyvrin's expression. He gasped. Cole had dented the armor with his bare hands. "I don't lift to fight," Cole said. "But I'm not weak." Kyvrin stepped back, angry and shaken. "I could have you arrested for assault." Velshara raised a hand. "You stepped into his space first? If you press charges, I press mine," Kyvrin snarled. "This isn't over." He stormed off. The cage remained. The small beast inside trembled. Cole opened the lock. It stepped out slowly, sniffed him, and pressed its head against his hand. The Empress stood beside him, watching. "You showed strength again," she said. Cole shook his head. "I showed boundaries." She turned toward the beast who now sat beside Viren in the corner of the bay. "You didn't have to step forward." "Yes, I did," Cole said. "Someone had to." That night, Velshara spoke quietly with her guards. "No royal," she said, "has ever stood against Dravak without weapons." One replied, "No royal ever lifted their enemies bare-handed either." She sat alone, thinking. It wasn't the power in Cole's hands that stayed with her. It was the calm behind it. No anger, no pride, just a wall that refused to be pushed. And somehow, that was stronger than any throne she had ever sat on. Later, that night the Empress walked quietly into Cole's workshop. No guards, no formal robe. She watched as he gently fed both beasts, one huge, one small. He turned, surprised. She didn't speak for a moment, then said softly, "I'd like to learn. What makes you this way?" Cole smiled faintly. "Then you'll need to stay a while." The royal chambers on Voron 6 were quiet that night. No music, no guards, no command. Just Empress Velshara, sitting in silence. She wasn't used to this kind of quiet. On her homeworld, she ruled from a high throne. She gave orders. People bowed. But here, in this place, something had changed, and it started with a mechanic. The next morning, she didn't call for her guards. She didn't dress in glowing robes. She wore a simple travel cloak, tied her long silver hair behind her head, and walked alone to Cole's workshop. Inside, the smell of oil and old metal filled the air. Cole was fixing a power conduit. Varan lay curled up beside him. The younger feline beast purred softly near a heat vent. When he noticed her, he wiped his hands. "Didn't think I'd see royalty before breakfast," he said. She stepped inside slowly. "I came to watch." He pointed at a crate. "Sit if you don't mind rust." She sat without a word. Viren lifted his head but didn't growl. That was enough. Hours passed. Cole worked, she observed. She saw how carefully he placed tools in order, how he double-checked even small repairs, how he cleaned his hands before touching. The beasts. No one bowed, no one obeyed, yet everything moved around him by choice. She finally spoke. "Where did you learn to fix things like this?" "My father owned a salvage yard," he said. "Didn't have money for bots, so I became one." She tilted her head. "Was he a great leader?" "No," Cole said. "He was tired, but he was kind." He paused. "That made him great to me." That word, kind, echoed in her mind like an unfamiliar song. That evening she stayed longer. She helped him organize metal scraps. At first she used 2 fingers, delicate, unsure, but then she gripped a panel with both hands and lifted. Cole smiled. "You're stronger than you look." She raised an eyebrow. "So are you." The next day she came again. This time she brought him a new wrench, polished royal-grade alloy. "I had it forged last year." "Never used it," she said. Cole turned it in his hand. "Feels light, balanced." "I thought so," she replied. She watched as he used it to loosen a stubborn bolt, and for some reason it made her heart feel light. Later they shared lunch on the floor. Nothing fancy, just ration bars and heated broth. She tasted one and made a face. "Your food is awful," Cole chuckled. "Yours probably costs more than this whole station." She smiled, small but real. "Maybe, but yours is warmer." That night in her room, Velshara stood before a mirror. She looked at her hands, soft, but not weak. She tried lifting her own royal armor. It was heavier than she remembered. Strength, she whispered, was never about lifting metal. The next morning, she did something no one had ever seen. She walked with Cole through the lower halls. No guards, no crown. The workers stared, but no one stopped her. Cole carried a crate on one shoulder. She carried a smaller one beside him. Together. Later that day, she sat beside him as he repaired a power unit. "May I try?" she asked. He handed her a tool. Their fingers touched for half a second, but the warmth lasted longer. She fixed the unit. It hummed to life. She gasped, like a child discovering fire. He smiled. "Told you, you learn fast." She looked at him. Really looked. "You never once asked for anything," she said. "I didn't need to," he replied. "You were already giving more than you knew." That night, an explosion rocked the outer dock. Smoke filled the corridor. The Empress was missing. Cole ran toward the sound. No armor, no plan. And Varen was already ahead of him, because now, he wasn't just fixing ships. He was going to save the one who had begun to fix herself. The air on Voron 6 was different that morning, thicker, like the station itself was holding its breath. Cole was just finishing repairs on a cargo lock when Varen suddenly stood, ears flat, eyes glowing. The great feline growled low, muscles tight. Cole looked up from his tools. "What is it, boy?" Then boom! A deep thunder-like blast shook the floor. Smoke rolled from the upper corridor, sirens wailed, lights blinked red, and Cole's heart dropped. That blast came from the royal wing. Without waiting, he grabbed a wrench and ran. Varen was already ahead, leaping over crates and metal paths like a silent shadow. As Cole turned the last corner, he saw it. Flames. Walls blackened. 2 guards lay unconscious near the entrance to Velshara's private chamber, and the door was wide open. He rushed inside. Heat slapped his face. Sparks flew from a destroyed console. The air stung his lungs, and through the smoke he saw her. Velshara was on the floor, one leg bleeding, a piece of metal trapped across her side. She was breathing, but barely conscious. "Varen," she whispered. The beast growled, moving toward her, sniffing gently, but it couldn't lift her. Cole didn't hesitate. He dropped to his knees beside her. "I've got you," he said. With both hands he grabbed the metal beam, heavy, hot. He gritted his teeth and lifted. His arms screamed, his shoulders burned, but he lifted, freed her, and pulled her gently away from the sparks. Her eyes opened wider. "You came? You expected anyone else?" he asked. She smiled, weak but real. He looked around. Another charge was blinking red near the wall. A second explosion was coming. Fast, he scooped her into his arms. "Hold on." She didn't argue. He ran. Through fire. Through collapsing doors. Through a station that now felt like a war zone. And behind him, Varen followed, growling, guarding every step. They burst through the lower maintenance doors just as the second blast hit. The tunnel lit up behind them, roaring heat and light. They collapsed behind a thick cargo wall. Alive. Velshara coughed, her voice hoarse. "That wasn't an accident." Cole nodded. "Someone wants you dead." Medical staff arrived, minutes later, but Cole stayed by her side, refusing to leave, and she didn't ask him to. Later, in a private med room, she lay on a padded bed, arm wrapped, leg stitched. Varen curled beside her like a guardian, and across the room, on the floor, sat Cole, still holding the same wrench, still covered in ash. "You saved me," she said, softly. "I'm a mechanic," he replied. "Saving broken things is what I do." She smiled gently. "Do you see me as broken?" He looked at her, not like a servant, not like a soldier, but like someone who simply cares. "No. I see someone who's finally learning to live." She looked away, eyes wet but proud. "I mocked you," she whispered. "Called you weak, low." Cole shrugged. "You were half right." She looked confused. He smiled faintly. "I am low. I walk in oil. I live in scraps. But I carry more than some kings ever could." A long silence. Then she said, "When this is over, I'll return to my empire, my throne, and—" She reached out, fingers brushing his calloused hand. "And I don't want to return without you." He froze, not from shock, but because deep down, he didn't want to let go either. Later that night, a message from her homeworld arrived. The throne is waiting. Your enemies are watching. If you return with a human, they will resist. Velshara turned toward the dark sky beyond the glass, then toward Cole, resting with Varan asleep beside him. Then, let them resist, she said, because tomorrow I return not with a soldier, but with the one who taught me strength. The royal ship Silverclaw rose from Voran 6 and sailed into the stars, this time with new weight in its hulls. Not cargo, not weapons, but something heavier. Change. In the royal chamber, Empress Velshara stood by the observation glass, watching stars stretch past. Her wounds had mostly healed, but not completely. Some scars would stay. She traced her fingers along the window, her voice soft. I left my world as a ruler. Now I return as something else. Behind her, sitting on a bench surrounded by metal, tools, sat Cole. He looked completely out of place. Greasy boots, sleeves rolled up, calloused hands resting on his knees. And yet, this ship no longer felt complete without him. They hadn't spoken much since the explosion, but words weren't needed now. Every moment between them felt full already, like silence that had found its voice. Then came the message. A transmission from the Empress's throne world. On the large screen, her High Council stood in polished robes. You survived, Majesty, one said, bowing slightly. But you bring a Terran to your palace? Another added, there is unrest in the cities. If you return with a human at your side, the old families will rise. Velshara didn't blink, then let them rise. They stared. You would defend him? She stepped forward. I would follow him into fire. Because he carried my beast without fear. Because he carried me when no one else dared. Because strength does not kneel, and neither does he. The transmission ended. The room was silent. Cole finally spoke. You're really going through with this? Velshara turned to him. Yes. Hours later, the ship descended through purple clouds and burning sunlight. Velshara's capital. Towers stretched like blades. Soldiers lined the bridges. Millions of citizens waited, watching. They expected the return of a wounded ruler. They didn't expect him. Cole stepped down the ramp beside her. No armor, no speech, just presence. Viran walked beside him, calm, quiet, loyal. And behind them, the younger feline followed like a shadow. The people gasped. Guards stiffened, and the council waited with narrowed eyes. At the palace gate, a traditional blade was offered to Velshara, a symbol of her right to rule. She took it, held it in the air, then did something no empress had ever done before. She turned and offered it to Cole. The crowd fell into shocked silence. He looked at the blade, then at her. I'm no king, he said. You're more, she replied. You're the first man I trust to carry what I can't. Then she stepped back and raised her voice to the crowd. This human, this mechanic, lifted more than a beast. He lifted me. He lifted a mirror to my pride and showed me what true power looks like. The people murmured. She continued. You call him low-born. You call him weak. But today, I give him a title above all others. She turned to Cole, eyes steady, voice proud. From this day, you are protector of the flame, guardian of Varan, and trusted hand of the Empress. One counselor stepped forward, angry. He has no blood. Right, no training. Velshara's eyes turned to fire. Then let blood follow courage and let training follow truth. She stepped down from the platform and took Cole's hand in hers. The crowd slowly began to kneel, not to a crown, but to something new. That night, in the palace garden, soft lights danced on silver leaves. Cole sat on a low bench. His hands were still dirty, still human. Velshara stood nearby holding a glass of warm nectar. You're not afraid of them? she asked. Not anymore. You're not afraid of me? He looked at her with a smile. Not since I saw you try to lift a fuel drum. She laughed softly, the kind of laugh only he had ever heard. Then she stepped close. Stay, she said, with me. He hesitated, not because he doubted her, but because it still felt unreal. I don't know how to serve a queen. She leaned forward. Then don't. Just be the man who looked at me and didn't flinch. They stood under the stars. No more beasts to tame. No more thrones to protect. Only two people, one who had ruled everything and one who had simply chosen to care. Epilogue. The legacy of the mechanic years. Later statues would be built, not of warriors, not of kings, but of a man in a simple shirt, lifting a wounded feline from fire. And an empress, watching him like a woman who had found her equal. Some said he was the first Terran to ever hold power in the Empire. Others said he never cared for titles, only for people, and the beasts no one else would save. In a quiet corner of the palace, a plaque still hangs. He fixed machines, he lifted beasts, but most of all he repaired a crown that forgot what it meant to serve. Empress Velshara. He didn't win with weapons. He didn't demand respect. He earned it, not by fighting for power, but by showing what power was meant for. To lift, to protect, to heal.